All right, everybody. Thank you for jumping on today and joining us for this media availability. If you have a question, please use a raise your hand function, and we'll get to you. And then before you ask your question, please state your name and affiliate. So thanks for your time. Thanks also to Tim for his time jumping on today to provide his thoughts and preview the upcoming Dynamo and Dash seasons, as well as the upcoming She Believes Cup matches here at Shell Energy Stadium. So just to kick it off here, I'll hand it over to Tim just for opening remarks on those items, the Dash and Dynamo season and She Believes, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Great. Thank you, Jack. Most importantly, thank you all for jumping on. I know it's crazy busy for all of us, but always good to meet and catch up. Wow, big things going on in Houston. Excited, crazy off season. For everybody who isn't kicking the ball, it feels like it's long, but on the inside, there's so much work to be done in a short period of time. So, yeah, we got to work, and it's exciting. It's exciting that the ball's back rolling, and big changes on the Dash side. Some incredible news from the Dynamo, obviously the 20th year, and it's a big credit to not only this organization, the team itself, but most importantly, the community that embraced this club and had an opportunity to be a part of the growth by being an opponent, as I've always mentioned, and what an incredible place to play, and now being on the other side of it. She Believes Cup. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since Houston have had the men's or women's team there. So super excited, really excited about anytime you get to watch our men's and women's national teams play in person is incredibly special. I can't go to enough games. I don't get to as many as I'd like on both the men and women's side for the national team, but what an experience, and just delighted about that. So I know you'll have questions, and Jack, I'll turn it back over to you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I see one hand raised so far. So Juan, go ahead with your question.
Hello, Tim. This is Juan Pereira from Dynamic Foxtrot. One quick question for you. Obviously, second match of the Dynamo season will be Inter Miami. Obviously, Messi and co come into town. How have you and the ownership group trying to take advantage of that big opportunity to get the eyes of everybody on the Dynamo for at least one match day?
Yeah, I mean, other than all the hard work that goes into every other game, I mean, this is special, right? This is this is about probably seeing the greatest player to ever grace the field be in Houston. So, from every angle, we've tried to take advantage of that. From filling out Shell to local media partners and the marketing team that's worked tirelessly behind it. I know from my end, it's an incessant phone call, text chain from all my friends because they think I can get tickets, which I can, but none more so than Landon Donovan demanding that I get him and his son tickets. And so, being that he and I are friends and partners, I made sure that he'll have field access for that one. So, but otherwise, no. I mean, listen, it's special. It's special for everyone involved, and hopefully on the day we put a performance in that is a winning performance, but still. It'll be special for us as a club to host Inter Miami and Lionel Messi, but also as a community.
Actually, last question right here for you. Obviously, looking forward into the season overall, you guys brought in Jack McClin to replace that Achi guy. How do you feel personally about that signing? Were you a part of the decision making? And just overall, how do you feel about a U.S. men's national team player coming to play for Houston again?
Well, look, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about Jack McGlynn, and rightfully so. I'm beyond excited because of what he brings from a youth standpoint, talent. I watched him and covered him during the Olympics. He had a fantastic January camp under Maurizio Pochettino. Really showed well. And look, I've always been somebody, having been in this league for a long time as a player, and in between playing and ownership and being a fan of the league and watching it, it's a young man's league, and I've always thought clubs should do more to bring in the best American and Mexican talent into the MLS. That's always been my personal belief. That's an official belief. That's just how I see the game and see the league. And so I'm very happy that the Houston Dynamo are leading the way. And I think this trend will become a trend, and it will continue because having the best U.S. talent and paying market value for that talent is important within the league. So he's a special player. I think he's going to do great things for us in Ben's system. So excited for him.
All right, we'll go to Alex Para. Alex, go.
Great. Mr. Tim Howard, I hope you can hear me, first of all.
Gotcha.
Great to see you, sir. How are you, first of all?
Good, Alex. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you. You mentioned your different hats you've worn, not only as a rep for the national team, but now as an owner. Have you settled into that mindset? And look, we all get criticism for everything we do, right? How do you balance? You're an owner now. Do you ever think about, hey, maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe I shouldn't write that? Is that a fair question, sir?
Yeah, it's a fair question. What I would say about me is I went over. It's well documented that I've grown up with Tourette syndrome, and I signed for Manchester United, and before the papers were put in front of me, I landed in Manchester on an overnight flight from New York, and the headlines in the back paper on the tabloids was Manchester United signs a retarded goalkeeper, and so I say that to illustrate I've been criticized for publicly for the last 25 years. So it's kind of my middle name. It's not something that I worry about. There's some nuances to it. I ultimately am a media personality and someone in sports that has a valued and respected opinion, and I try and be balanced and as much as I can. I'm not going to be overly critical. It's not in my nature to just be overly critical. I try and give facts and and behind that, my opinion that is backed up with facts. And so I don't think there's much to be gained by just being overly critical for the sake of it. There's enough people in U.S. soccer and on the media side that are overly critical for the sake of it. It's not important to me. I have an ownership stake in Houston Dynamo and Dash, and I have a vested interest in that. But if we play well, I'm going to say it. And if another team comes in and whoops up on us, I'll say what they did good. It's not that. I don't think it's that crucial. I think criticism is welcomed. We should be able to take criticism on the chin and as well as praise. So it's not something that is overly concerning for me, but it's out there.
And as a quick follow-up, Tim, do other owners, do other management say, hey, let's not talk about this, let's not talk about that? I'm sure that doesn't exist, but does it ever cross your mind to maybe check in with others before you express your opinion? And of course, it's based on facts versus controversy for the sake of it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm anytime you talk about, publicly, anytime you talk about something that is on the top of everybody's mind, if you're speaking against a certain club or a player or ownership group, they're not going to be happy. I was a player and now an owner, and if someone spoke about me or my club that wasn't in a glowing light, I wouldn't love that either. But it's not, again, as long as things aren't personal, I think you have an ability to balance that. And I try and fact check myself. I try and make sure that I'm in the right lane. And then when I speak, I let things exist where they're going to exist, and people are going to praise them and criticize them and ridicule them as they wish. That's not really much of my concern, if I'm being honest.
Quickly, sir, She Believes Cup, you mentioned it coming to Houston. That's huge. We follow the Dash and the team rebuilding this season. Please talk about what it means to be there to support at Shell Energy Stadium, the women's national team.
Yeah. As I said, I think anytime you get to watch our men's or women's team pull that shirt on, represent that crest, it's a special moment. It's a special moment to see it live because, particularly for our women, these are, and I said this very, very recently, we're spoiled in this country as far as women's soccer goes, because each and every year we have one or two and possibly three of our U.S. women who are in the conversation for best player in the world. right? Like that happens every single year. And so watching them perform is hugely gratifying, if you're a soccer fan in this country. And just delighted that I know Houston will show up and show out and represent, as they should, for these wonderful women and for this team.
Mr. Jim Howard, thank you for your time.
We'll go to Ann Peterson and Thomas Hindle after that.
Thank you, Tim, for doing this. I super appreciate it. I wanted to ask, the Dash have made some really dramatic changes in the offseason. They hired, Angela came in, they hired Fabrice, they brought in some players like Yasmin Ryan, and I wanted to get your thoughts on those moves and the team going into this season. And also, how do you envision your role in terms of the women's team?
Yeah. Look, when there was a lot of things that were said about the Houston Dash over the last few years, and when we just talked about criticism, and some of those things have been warranted and some were unwarranted. Irregardless of that, our ownership group has heard it, and this is not an ownership group that wants anything other than success. And I think with the very bold moves that were made this offseason, I know that we have not just talked the talk, but we've walked it. Hiring Angela was an incredible coup. Incredible. She has a vision for women's soccer that, when you talk about experience, what she's seen as a player, both in domestic leagues and with U.S. soccer, what she's done after her playing career and her executive roles. I just think it's, in her technical roles, I think it's, incredible that we were able to bring her to Houston. And she's hungry. She's hungry for success because she knows what it looks like. Hiring Fabrice, again, was an incredible get for our club. And again, you saw the headlines. You saw the headlines with Yasmin Ryan. Eyes were open in this league, and we believe that Houston is a place that these women want to come in order to be successful, and we've shown that. Look, five of the 7 players we added to the roster have won trophies in NWSL, whether that be championship or Shield. So you can see the intention, the real intention in terms of roster building that has gone on. And as I mentioned, a very short period of time, which we all wish we had a little bit more, but excited about what that looks like. And how I support is no different day to day than when I first was brought on. I talk to Angela regularly, and her and I have the opportunity to be soccer minds, to be and what that looks like on the business side, the community side, most importantly on the field. And I try and let her know I'm there to support her. I'm there to support her and drive her mission home, whether that be at the board level, on the field level with the community. I'm there to share ideas and encourage her. And anything she needs from me, she knows she can ask, or I'm happy to be a part of those conversations.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas, go ahead.
Hi, Tim. Tom Hindle from Goal USA. How are you? So I just had a quick question I wanted to ask about. You obviously have 2 players from the Dash who are going to be playing in their home stadium. I mean, what does that mean to you as an owner and as a supporter? And then also more specifically with Jane, her being, in the conversation, maybe to take that #1 shirt going forward, goalkeeper to goalkeeper, like what's that like from your point of view?
Well, Jane has been brilliant for this club. She's been such an incredible servant and leader and performer. And, look, when it comes to, we've talked about what it's like to play for your country. There's no better feeling. There's no greater achievement as a footballer. I'm excited for them because I think about playing in your home stadium, like, for your country. My Giant Stadium, which was the old Giant Stadium, and MetLife Stadium here in New York, New Jersey. I grew up watching games there. I grew up playing there in the MLS for the Metro Stars. And, I've been fortunate enough to, pull the U.S. men's national team shirt on in that stadium more than a couple of times. And it's always beautiful when you're playing at home. There's a special feeling to that. And so, I'm excited for them. More importantly, the fact that they, number one, get the call up and get the selection to the full team again, and the fact that they get to perform in their home stadium. Look, Jane is, she's incredible in so many ways. And, being goalkeepers, you always understand the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows. She does. She has an opportunity now to take that number one shirt and make it her own. And that is going to be completely down to her performances, to her hard work, to her dedication. And if, the past is any reflection of the future with her, I certainly wouldn't bet against her, and I'm rooting for her.
Thanks, mate.
All right, we'll go to Luis Martinez and then Germán Benitez.
Thank you, Jack. Hey, Tim.
Hey, guys.
Gotcha. Tim, well, you just mentioned a couple minutes ago about the Mexican talent and the U.S. talent. About that, today, Leagues Cup announced the matches for Dynamo against Tigres, Pachuca, Mazatlan. I wonder, you tell me what you think about those matches, but most of all, what you think about the Leagues Cup, all the changes, and trying to empower these two big leagues here in North America.
Yeah, look, I'm excited about Leagues Cup. I think it adds such a significant element to the game, to both leagues. When you look at the conversation that you probably have every day and I have often is which league is better, and how do we how do you actually have a barometer to measure that? And it's a great conversation. It's a fun conversation. You have two amazing footballing countries going against each other, and it's when you look at what the Leagues Cup has represented for so many of the teams in both countries, it's an incredible opportunity to perform, to progress, to grow even further in other competitions globally. I just, I'm here for changes, for making it better. And that's oftentimes natural when you get a new, somewhat of a new competition. You're always trying to refine it and trim the fat and make it better. And you only do that through experience and trial and error. But look, I think when you see a draw for us and you see the likes of Tigres and Pachuca, these are big games. These are really big games. Talk about clubs with history, passionate fan bases. This is exciting. And Houston in 2025, there's a lot of exciting things, and this is just another one of those elements.
Thank you, Tim.
Germán, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Tim. It's Germán Benitez with Deporte Total USA. Our listeners are interested in understanding more the active role you have with the football club. For example, did you play a role in bringing She Believes Cup to Houston? And if so, what role did you play? And for the Houston Dynamo aspect, there's an open DP slot. Do you travel with Pat? Do you travel with Asher at the sales pitch of a potential DP signing? Our fans, our readers would just love to understand more of the role you play in the club, in your own words.
Yeah. So She Believes Cup, I think those, I came to the club in the summer, July, August. Those conversations were already happening in terms of trying to get some, U.S. men's national team and U.S. women's national team games to Houston. And there's a ton of different reasons why cities are selected. But ultimately, when I joined forces with these clubs, the discussion had already been going on, and I just said, look, I will do my part and reach out to friends of mine and colleagues at U.S. Soccer, which I did, and I simply continued to have those conversations and drove the point home as to why I thought Houston was the right landing spot and right venue for a game. And in this particular time, it was She Believes Cup. And so I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have the most influence in the world and they only got She Believes Cup because of me. That's not how that worked. That this, we had a lot of people working very, very hard behind the scenes for a long period of time on ongoing conversations to get that ball rolling. In regards to the DP slot and how selection works, I think, well, I know our ownership group has been delighted with what Pat and Asher have done in terms of building a competitive team, one that we can be proud of and bringing players in. I speak to Pat often. Again, same with Angela. I'm there to lend my support and my connectivity. And if there's any time that there needs to be a conversation or a get or an ask or me being able to make a phone call or be in a conversation, I'm a part of that. I think what you also have to realize is we hired some really incredible people to do difficult jobs, and they're doing those jobs in a major way, which we're very happy with and proud of the fact that they're doing that. So this isn't a matter of, and I think that's I think that's important. This isn't a matter of me coming in and kicking doors down and saying, like, I'm here, everybody sit down, let me pontificate about what I know about soccer. That's not how this works. Our ownership group has a really good way of working with both the business side and the technical side and staff, and we do that. And so, yeah, I'm a part of all of these conversations. But again, I'm a footballing voice within a room full of very knowledgeable people. And look, what I would say is this has been since the beginning of the time, and it's been more exacerbated now more than ever. Finding the right DP at the right price is an exact science that not a ton of teams always get right. And so that process is long and arduous, and it's one that has to be be delicately walked, because there's a ton of players, as much as you'd like to think, there's a ton of players that want to come to America to play a little bit of football, but they want to come to America. And we're looking for the person who wants to come to Houston and be a Houstonian and be a part of a legacy. And that's tricky at times. So yeah, part of the conversation.
Thank you, Tim. And to wrap up, my second and last question is, in your opening presser, I asked you to assess the club, having the 1-2 day walkthrough that you had. But now that you've been in charge for a couple of months now, what have you found surprising, and what was the most pleasantly surprised aspect that you didn't expect, or as you take on this role in ownership?
Yeah, I think the surprising thing, which I've always talked about in America, and it's not exclusive to Houston, is how do you get continual buy-in from these communities, right? And Houston is a proud city with a proud culture, both on a sporting landscape and otherwise. And so, trying to continue to build on that. You talk about around the city, inside the stadium, like it never, there should be a direct link, and that should never, ever break, right? Like a Houston Dynamo and Dash fan should be that every day of the week, and vice versa, whether they go into the job world or come into the stadium. And so continuing to market the team with sponsors and on the business side of things, but also most importantly in the community, and have that connectivity between the club and the fans and the players. And I think that is an ongoing mission, one that we're obviously very proud of. We as an ownership group and obviously the fans are proud of that as well. I think I was pleasantly surprised at the hard work that went into kind of reshaping the Dash this offseason. I had a feeling, you asked again, why I was surprised. I knew, and we haven't kicked a ball yet in a competitive capacity, right? I don't know where this team will finish. I have hopes and thoughts of that, but I knew we could do really good things on the Dash side. And it was just a matter of being bullish and being determined in bringing the right people in. And I think we've done that. And the signings, both in the front office and on the field, speak for themselves. And so that excites me for the season. Obviously, bringing Jack McGlynn in was tremendous for the Dynamo. And again, it speaks to what I believe should and will happen in this country, and that is paying value for young U.S. players. Young U.S. players get overlooked. They do. And what happens in this country, in the MLS, it's happened since the start of building these youth teams, is most people want to go out and find talent everywhere else in the world when some of the best talent is already here. And then they scoff at paying a certain fee for that player. A player has a market value, and U.S. players have been undervalued globally since the beginning of time. And we still see that. You know, our most talented U.S. players go for far less than players in other countries, young players in other countries. So I think Jack will have success in our organization and our team, and I think that will start a trend that I believe should have happened a long time ago.
Thank you, Tim.
All right, Sam, go ahead.
Hi, Tim.
Sam.
Just want to ask you this question real quick. What excites you most about this upcoming season?
Regarding the Dynamo?
Both for Dynamo and the Dash.
Yeah, so I think for the Dynamo, what excites me the most is you can what has been built over the last two seasons with both playoff experiences with US Open Cup. I think what we've seen is we're starting to build a foundation and a trend. And I think you can be successful like on the one-off year. I think you could just flip a coin, and we've seen MLS teams be successful like on a single year and like not expect to be good, but they just happen to be really good. I don't know if that's a formula for success. In fact, I'm pretty certain it's not. And I think in order to, if you use Arsenal as an example, right? They've been knocking on the door of winning a title and knocking on the door of winning a title. And I think you have to be hardened by that, by those experiences. And when I look at this team and as they continue to grow under Ben Olsen, you start to realize it's a tough, hardworking team that plays good football and is designed to have success in the playoffs. I mean, if you look at it, I think Seattle last season was a tremendous team. They are a team that perennially can win a championship, and they show that because they're a brilliant organization. And in both legs, we should have won. And we know that there was red cards and all the rest of it. But you talk about being in the thick of it and having a great opportunity to advance. We were there, but that's all what ifs. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. But we're poised to make a really good run. I'm excited to see how Jack McGlynn fits into the system. Ponce and I've seen this. I've been around clubs where a player doesn't have a full preseason, a full year with the team, and this is an opportunity for that to happen. He's really bedded in and settled into the team. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what that looks like, and I think it'll be a slow burn, in terms of getting to the summer. That's what most MLS teams do: get to the summer, reassess, reevaluate, add if you can, and then push. So, look, from the Dash side, what I said doesn't hold true in the NWSL. We've seen a bunch of teams go from worst to first or thereabouts, and not suggesting that we will go from worst to first, but there's every opportunity to do that. And there's a lot of new beginnings within that team. And along the way, we'll have to build some culture under Fabrice, but I am very bullish in terms of what I think this team can do this season. And those additions are fresh, they're vibrant, they're experienced, they're championship winning additions. And, in Angela, we trust. We do. We think that this is a really good match, and she has shown exactly what she can do in her first, couple of months on the job.
All right, MLS as an owner, MLS considering changing calendar from fall to spring. And when you look at the competition in terms of viewership, support that MLS teams compete against top European clubs, you see when they come for preseason here during their US tours, We see how stadiums are sold out. And now the league is considering switching from fall to spring calendar. How do you think this will work out in terms of viewership for the league and the league continuous growth?
Yeah, look, there's going to be some divided opinions on that, Sam. I tend to think being on the international calendar is important. It has its challenges, like everything, like every major change and shift has its challenges. But leagues have done that since the beginning of time. Oftentimes you have to pivot, and it'd be a hard pivot, and that comes with growing pains. And look, I think geographically, in regards to weather, is a huge factor, within this league. But what I would tend to say is, look, I think in the north of this country, what difficulty they will have weather-wise. We have the same thing in Houston when it's July. And so I think that the factors that seem to be hurdles to switch to an international calendar can be overcome. But again, there's going to be challenges, and there's going to be owners that challenge that. But overall, I think it can be beneficial to be on the international calendar, personally.
All right, we have a few more here. We'll go to Dan. Dan, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Tim. Dan Lauletta from Equalizer. I've got two Dash questions for you. Number one, the team unfortunately has a lengthy history of not performing well at home. As a former player, I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on that, and what can be done to kind of turn that around? Especially, you mentioned the hot summers, that in theory should be an advantage, I would think.
Yeah. I think it's mentality. I think it's mindset. Look, I played for a club in Denver that I don't believe should lose many home games. I don't think at altitude, and how horrific playing at altitude is, that you should lose at home. But that happens. I think the heat in Houston should be I agree with you, should be an absolute major advantage. And it comes down to mindset, winning mentality. Look, that starts from the top down. That starts from the manager and Fabrice and having in terms of the way they train and the way they use sports science and data analytics to help them. Because the other part of it, and this is why I say like mentality, and it's an easy blanket statement. I say that because any time between May, June, and September, any team that touches down at Houston International is desperately waiting to leave. They don't want to play those games. I've been a part of that. You don't want to play. So naturally, from the mentality piece, you already have an advantage. And so, yeah, that needs to be taken care of. And you need to win your home. In order to be successful and be a playoff team, you have to win your home games, and home has to be a fortress. And we're hoping that under new owners, new leadership and guidance, that is the case.
And the second one is, having been involved now for a bit of time, what are your thoughts about how to sort of balance having the women's team in with the men's team, and when to prioritize each one, and how to lift the women's team to being, for lack of a better word, equal with the Dynamo and the men's team?
It's a delicate balance. I think it's one that just needs to be done with intention, right? I don't think you can ever slack on one, prioritize one over the other, and we certainly don't. Again, the moves that have been made on both sides. I mean, it's a busy offseason. When you're an ownership group that owns two teams that have an offseason that runs parallel, there's a lot of hours and not enough in the day most days. But I think we have shown, certainly this offseason, that the priorities lie in both clubs, and that big changes needed to be made on the Dash side, and smaller tweaks needed to be done on the Dynamo side. And again, with intention, we've moved to make that happen. It's not and by the way, if you're gonna, not you personally, but if there's going to be ridicule and scrutiny, then people are going to try and pick the bones out of it and say, one at certain times gets priority over the other. But I can assure you, on the inside, that doesn't happen. And part of that is delegating to the right people. And we've hired some really great people in a lot of positions, both on the sponsorship side, business side, technical side, and certainly the playing staff. So we feel confident in the balance that we strike day in, day out.
Great. Thanks for your time today.
right, Victor, go ahead.
Tim, Victor Araiza for Deportes Nation. The Dash are reportedly on the market, whether in whole and in part. What can you tell us about that, and is there a possibility of relocation?
Great question. I think that's the question everyone wants to know. Look, it's as Ted Siegel said, it's still early in the process. With the landscape of women's sports in general, but certainly women's soccer, it's a great opportunity for us, to kind of expand our resource pool. But again, I reiterate, we're not in, it's business as usual in terms of the support that and the resources that we're giving to the Dash. We're certainly not in a rush, and I think this process is going to take a while to evolve. And we are, again, I'm simply reiterating what you already know. We're wholly committed to this, and I think it would be irresponsible and naive of us not to pursue that, because any further investment just boosts the club. Regarding relocation, that hasn't been a topic of discussion as far as I'm concerned. And Houston is, I believe it's a market that will thrive and should continue to be a part of the conversation. But I don't see relocation as part of that. But I can only talk to the conversations that I've been in.
And 2026 is next year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the club, obviously the Dynamo because it's a men's World Cup, but also we can include the Dash. Do you feel the club is making the most out of having the World Cup coming through Houston? Do you think that the team has enough of a seat on the table?
Oh yeah, we have enough of a seat at the table. Absolutely. These with the runway kind of being short now, with probably less than 18 months, but these conversations have been ongoing. We feel very confident in where we are situated regarding Houston and the World Cup landscape. Both teams, rising tide lifts all boats. This is a soccer celebration, and we are the preeminent soccer voice in the city, and so we feel good about what our role in the World Cup is going to be. We think it's going to be a significant one. We know it's going to be a significant one, and I think both teams, the Dash and the Dynamo, will be reflected in that. Certainly, the community, more importantly than the team themselves, is the community and the fan base. So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, we got one last one here, and it's actually a write-in. Greg couldn't join. Greg Bailey from ABC 13 Houston asked, what excites you the most about the combination of Emma Hayes and the great young talent on the U.S. women's national team?
Well, I just think I love the way Emma's come in, and she's had such a job to do, right? Because when you take, talk about the world-class players that the women have, they're the most successful women's national team in world football, in the history of world football. And when you take over that job, it's not simply like it's not about performing well, it's not about winning. You've got to go to the Olympics and win. You have to go to the She Believes Cup and win. You have to go to World Cup qualifying and dominate, and then go to a World Cup and win. Like, that's so very difficult. And I think her mindset, which I've read her book, and I've talked to a few people on the inside on her staff, and her mindset is incredible. And you can see that. And when she took over the team, she made big decisions, big roster decisions, went to the Olympics, brought people back into the fold who may not have been in favor under the other manager, and she won. And I think that's very difficult to do. So, again, this is a young man, young woman sport. I think she's showing that youth is important. And I'm excited about what that looks like for this team moving forward. They've already got the Olympic gold, and hopefully, again, She Believes Cup, they can stamp their authority on that, and then it's plowing forward into what the next couple of years look like before the World Cup. But I'm super excited about Emma Hayes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for jumping on. Thank you, Tim, for your time. We're going to wrap it up there. We'll have media resources available later today. But thank you, everyone, for jumping on.
Thank you all. Absolutely brilliant seeing you.
Thank you.